Justin.
Hello.
Thanks for the thought-provoking film. You've been to Sundance Festival and now you're in Berlin for the film. How were the audience reactions and how different were the audience reactions?
The main difference I noticed from audience reactions was, everyone at Sundance, they had a lot of the same questions about the real story, the real guy, how we made the movie. But even though some people had written about concern as to why we would give this character a voice, it wasn't as much of an issue. And here at the Q&As, I've noticed that people are a bit more concerned with making this film at all, in terms of could it be damaging to the gay community. And I found that pretty interesting because I don't know exactly why. I don't know what's different here in Germany. But that's the main thing, and I've found myself having to kind of defend why we made the film much more at Berlinale than Sundance.
Well, maybe it's because people know the person much more in America than they do here, and we just take it as brand new.
That could be, but Michael, he wasn't like a well-known celebrity as an activist. When the New York Times story was written, a lot of people read it and it got a lot of attention, but yeah, he's not like a known figure at all. But I don't know, I think maybe for whatever reason it was a bit easier for people to understand that we could make a film with a character who might be unlikable, keep it balanced, but still have a point of view. And I think that's possible, and for some reason people here have a bit harder time understanding that. So I've been on the defense a lot.
I guess.
But thanks to all the press, I've been prepared.
You prepared yourself by meeting the Michael, the real Michael. What was it for you like to be in his presence, to watch him? Yeah,
it was probably about 6 months after we started the project, or started developing it and researching online, when I went to Wyoming to the Bible school to meet him. And a lot of people have not asked about this. It was very intense. It was, not to be dramatic, but probably one of the more intense experiences of my life, because I found him to be intimidating. I could tell he's really smart, but at the same time he wrote so many hateful anti-gay things to where I had a hard time believing that he would actually be intelligent. But I found him so smart, charming, charismatic, magnetic, and I didn't want that. I didn't want to like him, but I found myself liking him. He just has that kind of ability, which is why James is so great to play him. Mm-hmm. And then, I was asking him all the hard questions, but he did turn some of them around on me in terms of, what are your beliefs, and are you gay, and why are you? And I found myself it was a very tense meeting for me, but it also informed the character, and it made me feel like we could actually tell his story in a way that wasn't vilifying him, yet also wasn't supporting his anti-gay viewpoint.
You've done some short films and clips, and this is your first feature film, and you've already working with some of the A-list actors of Hollywood, James Franco, Zachary Quinto. What was it like for you to work with them, to develop the script with them, and to direct them?
Yeah, I definitely assumed my first feature would have been like a super low budget film, with non-actors or newer actors. But I've been working at it for a long time. Or started in film 15 years ago, and it just kind of happened. It was very bizarre. Like James really likes supporting emerging artists, and when he finds someone whose work he likes, even if it's a gamble, he is willing to take it. He's just like such a good person, and he does so many things at once, which people tend to take as like maybe he's like a narcissist, but almost everything is actually to help other people. He's a very giving person, and that made him easy to work with because he was a producer on the film, always believed in it, always believed in me, and even though while prepping in the first few days, of course, I was a little bit intimidated. Like, I'm directing James Franco, who is such a worldwide star. It was definitely, like, a bit surreal. But he, actually he never treated me like I was a newcomer, or, he's done so many films, he easily could have been, like, helping me direct or saying I'm doing something wrong, but he was always just there to support and completely, understood what I was doing. And then same with Zachary. And the three of us would oftentimes before scenes sit down and, like, rewrite scenes together. It was, like, a very collaborative process and intimidating at first, but after the first few days, it just felt normal. Yeah.
Had they met before, or were you helping them to connect? I mean, Zachary and
I don't think they had met. If they did, it was brief and in passing. So we all had to kind of, like, get to know each other the first few days, and we didn't have a lot of time to rehearse. I was prepping for 5 weeks, but they weren't available to come out and do serious rehearsals, so a lot of it was just before each scene. But James he's such a phenomenal actor. He can get into a role quickly. He's comfortable with gay material. He's done a lot of it. Zachary, as an out gay actor, is of course comfortable. So their chemistry, their chemistry just clicked immediately. Even the first scene we filmed when they're in bed together, I felt like they were a real gay couple, and they'd been together for 10 years, and they had really just met 5 days prior.
Well, it shows on film, and I'm glad that it shows. How much traveling did you do? You had a lot of different places where you shot, I assume, in the Midwest, at the coast, in San Francisco. How was the logistics of this film?
We shot 17 days on on Long Island in New York, and 2 in San Francisco, and 1 in Los Angeles, and that's it. So everything else was faked. We had to find a place on Long Island that looked like Olympia, Washington, and Halifax, and people from those actual places might see it and not buy it 100%. But we couldn't afford to travel to each place. It's really expensive to do that. You have to kind of stick to one area. But we had to go to San Francisco for the Castro. And but it didn't bother me because the film, it's a character study, and we're kind of in this guy's head the whole time anyways. So it was more important to kind of find great interior locations, and the exteriors were, like, even if they're not exactly like the place, shouldn't really matter because that shouldn't be the focus anyways.
How was it for you to recreate the 90s or late 90s, early millennium disco scenes?
That was probably the most fun. All the 90s stuff, because I went to high school in the 90s. I graduated in 98. And so for me, just Nirvana, grunge, flannel, raves, I love all that. And it was so fun to be able to recreate that and pick out costumes and hairstyles and James's kind of wispy, slightly bleached hair. It was super fun. And then the rave scene, I actually used to go to raves when I was in high school, and so that was super fun to recreate. Yeah.
What have you learned by doing this movie, by doing research on religion and on Michael's turn, and working with the actors, and maybe talking to Gus Van Sant, who introduced you, who introduced this topic as being a topic for a film?
Mm-hmm. I don't know what specifically is, like, something new that I learned, but I definitely have a far greater understanding of, identity politics and Christianity, and how the two can at times, support one another or be completely against one another. It's something that I've definitely have an interest in, but didn't expect to dive so deeply into for a first movie. Mm-hmm. But I really learned a lot more about what it means to identify as anything, and the restraints that puts on you, but at the same time, the support that gets you, because it gives you a community. And it's something that's really interesting to talk about. And then in terms of filmmaking, making your first feature, you learn more than you could ever imagine or expect. And I've worked on so many other films and have edited other films. I felt so prepared going into it. And not that I didn't think I would learn something, but definitely learned far more than I ever imagined about everything: storytelling, directing, how to organize a crew of 60 people, how to work with actors of this caliber. It was just better than my film school.
Well, I'm glad that you made this film, and I'm looking for more films in the future.
They're in the works.
Thank you very much.
Great, thanks.